Hello and welcome back, and this is another lesson on challenge of resource management. Now, I've got a nice graph on the screen for you, okay, with all the different categories, and then you've got the proposed energy mix by 2020, which was from a government paper, and what the actual energy mix was in 2019. So as you can see, the amount of renewables is almost matched. That's gone up massively, the amount of renewables in the United Kingdom. We have had days in the United Kingdom where we haven't burnt any fossil fuels at all to produce our energy. So those are some firsts in the Industrial Revolution. The amount of nuclear still is quite high to what was predicted. The amount of coal has dropped massively, but it has been augmented by gas. Okay, so we've still got quite a bit of fossil fuel use within our energy mix, so you will have to see how well that matches the two. So we're going to look at the issues to do with energy use today. You've got an oil rig there, and there's huge issues with using our reserves of fossil fuels. Some of those affect the natural and built environment, and the other ones involve economic impact. So you need to think about both the environment and the economy right the way through the lesson. Some of the main issues with general fossil fuel use is the damage used to the natural environment during extraction. Okay, so when we drill down into the seabed or into the rock, when we dig coal out of the ground, we have a massive impact on the natural environment. And then when we burn those fossil fuels to produce energy, we produce lots of pollutants, which can lead to things like global warming, dust, which is hazardous to human health, and sulfur dioxide, which contributes to acid rain. In terms of specific things, oil and gas, we've got large reserves of oil and gas in the North Sea. We started exploiting that in 1975. Oil and gas are vitally important to the UK, and most of our reserves are up in the Scottish territorial waters. And then in terms of difficulties, it's difficult because we drill under the sea from large offshore oil and gas rigs, and that's very dangerous. And there's been accidents such as the Piper Alpha oil disaster, where an oil rig set on fire, and various helicopter disasters as well, where workers have been killed just trying to get to the rigs. However, the two resources bring a lot of wealth to the UK, and they provide people with jobs, and they boost local economies of towns like Aberdeen. Coal's a reasonably cheap source of energy. We've got a huge open cast mine here just north of Newcastle, okay, just outside of a town called Cramlington. That has a profound impact on the natural environment. Modern open cast coal mines like this have to do some sort of landscaping once they're finished to try and return the land back to public use and not leave such a scar on the landscape, and it does bring in money for those local communities. We've also got nuclear power stations. Many of them will need decommissioning soon, and it's a very costly and long process. The government want new ones built, and a lot of the companies don't want to pay for the decommissioning of those either. So it's difficult to get nuclear power stations built. The other problem is that nuclear power plants produce nuclear waste, which needs disposing of in a safe manner. Okay, a lot of people don't want nuclear power and nuclear waste in their area. And that's something called NIMBYism. So not in my backyard. I'm okay having nuclear power stations as long as they're a long way away from where I live. But the benefits of nuclear energy: produces a lot of power, and it has a low carbon footprint once the power stations are actually constructed. Even renewables are not perfect. They can generate energy. We can continue to produce energy because it's renewable. The wind will keep blowing, hopefully. The sun will keep shining, so we can keep producing the energy. However, those things take up space, and the natural environment can suffer. So if you take offshore wind farms, which is the way that the UK government's going, and what they prefer, they damage the seabed. They're not very good, particularly good for birds, seabirds and so on. And on land, locals complain about the wind and the turbines being an eyesore and producing too much noise. And they also need pretty significant foundations at the base of wind turbines to keep them stable. Okay, so it's your second lesson on energy in the UK. It's quite a straightforward one. So we've been through a lot of the information. It's on that web page there. There's a table for you to complete with environmental impacts and economic impacts for those four different types of fuel. And then the latest sort of fuel that we're thinking about exploiting is fracking for shale gas. There's a nice video here with 5 questions for you, and I thought a little bit of research on the positives and negatives of fracking would be useful. Okay, it basically involves pumping water with some chemicals down through pipes to fracture shale rock in the ground, and then pumping the gas back up to the surface. So you can have a good look at that as well. Okay, and then the last thing on there is should the UK allow fracking? It's currently being halted completely because of earthquakes produced by it. The worksheet's there for you as well, with various things for you to fill in. There's the table, and there's the text boxes for the questions.